So tonight we're going to try and answer the questions that are on this flyer that hopefully some of you saw. Basically, am I ready for phase 3? When is the deadline? How do I apply? When do I find out? Where will I go? And then your questions. And you should have been given a card as they're floating around. Hopefully most people have them. So that's where you can ask questions that you might not feel comfortable asking to the whole group. And we'll hit those at the end of our time together. So the first question is, am I ready? And so to be ready for this, we want to first congratulate you for making it this far. This is a big step in the teacher education program, and it's an exciting time for transition between student and teacher. And so the prerequisites for phase 3 are a 2.75 UW total institutional GPA, a 2.5 major content GPA minimum. You have to have successfully completed with a C or better Ed Studies 2450, iTech 2360, Ed Studies 2480, EDEX Special Education 2484, Ed Studies 3000, completed by the time you start in phase 3, and then Ed Studies 3550. You have to have that done before you go out to do student teaching. So that's sort of the key answer to am I ready? Probably more important is when is the deadline? Does anyone know? Right on, December 11th by 5 p.m. But that, of course, is the end. You're welcome to turn in your application anytime between now and then. And I will tell you that you'll probably get more attention from the office from where Todd hails if you turn it in before this deadline. If you walk in at 5 p.m. and you hand in your application that moment, you won't really get any pre-screening done. If you turn it in December 1st, someone will actually check off, make sure you have everything and it looks good, and then accept it. So we encourage you to turn it in earlier if you can.
That's correct.
Okay, good. So Todd's going to talk a little bit about this.
Sure. I'll just start with the top. Does everybody know where to find the phase 3 application? Okay. It is not a form that you fill out and send to us electronically. It will never get to us electronically. You need to find the correct application for your graduate or post-bac status, elementary or secondary teaching content area, and download that application to either your hard drive of your personal computer or to a flash drive, and then fill it out from there. Okay? Anything that is in blue is something that needs to be typed. So that's how you want it computer filled out, and then print it out once it's complete. And there are various parts that need to be either signed or initialed. It's very clear which is which. So go through there in black ink, sign it. We recommend you make a copy for you. We need the hard copy in our office with another copy of your substitute teaching permit. Okay, that's going to be very important. We need a front and back copy on one piece of paper of your substitute teaching permit. We probably have one in your file, but to save time and effort for us, a second copy will make the screening process go so much smoother. So we appreciate your attention to detail for that. I want to take a minute and talk to you about, there are some folks who are in the process of getting their substitute teaching permit issued. You don't have it in hand yet. Are there some folks in that situation? Okay, do not worry, okay? What we will do is when you bring in your application to turn it in, phase 3 application to our office, if you don't have one already, ask for a copy of the green letter, and we'll give you one of these. And the green letter basically acts as a placeholder for your substitute teaching permit, allows us to process it, screen it, and go through everything. It gives you through February 22nd to get us an actual copy of your sub-permit on file. The thing of it is we can treat your application as a complete application with the green letter. We can't send it out for placement consideration without the sub-permit. That's why we have the green letter. So ask for one if you don't have one. We will treat your application as complete. When you bring in your application prior to the deadline, prior to December 11th, we will give you a goldenrod receipt that we received and we were able to go through and make sure that all of the component parts were received. We'll go over that with you. If it's something that's missing, we'll tell you, and then you'll have to bring it back again and we'll go through it again if it's incomplete. Okay. This also includes when you can expect to hear from us throughout the course of the process. Well, I think I'll talk with you a little bit about that later, so I don't want to go into that. But basically, it'll tell you that it's been received, it's been checked, and here's when you can expect to hear from us throughout the process of screening and placement.
Okay, so what we thought we would do is we would sort of just get into small content area groups. And there's an instruction sheet that is also on the form and application page, but Todd's brought some copies that we can share. And we can kind of form small subgroups with various faculty to sort of just discuss quickly the instructions, see if you all have any questions, and then it'll also give you a chance for most of the faculty who are here to meet their content person. Some faculty aren't here because they're out of town, but so let's see. Leslie, are you okay to?
Yeah, I can be here till 5.
Okay, so Leslie will go with the English education. This is Dr. Leslie Rush. She's the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs. Also, her true heart is in secondary ed with us, in English ed. So English education folks, you'll meet with Leslie. And then modern languages folks, and maybe we'll meet with Jason, Dr. Hendricks. Science folks will meet with Andrea. Math folks with Linda, and then social studies / history, political science folks.
And geography.
And geography, yeah. We'll meet with Mark. And then Terry, do you want to sit with me and we can do the rest? Sure. Great. Okay, so let's see. You're English, right?
I am.
Okay, so let's move the English folks over kind of towards this way. Maybe science up here.
Social studies,
Social
we'll
in
take
the
the back. To
Math, maybe over in that corner.
You're already here.
Yeah, and then,
Let's go back. Let's go. Spanish, right here.
and then,
Do you know how much of a struggle Spanish is?
who's the rest?
I have 5.
I am. I'm feeling great. I just think two people. Oh, I'm.
You're the all
No, not quite. I'm gonna go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good, you all registered now?
Yes, I got it. It was the
I'm glad we got it straightened out.
yeah, thank you so much.
right there.
Max is right there. So you sit there.
There's one more chair here.
Thank you. The rest of the game here.
All right.
So this is the application instructions for the phase 3.
We'll look at this.
Okay.
Well, there's like 6 guys that are matched.
All right.
That majors in my educational assessment. No.
So I'm gonna, all this is like topographical coordinates.
No, that's good.
Have it be single-sided. I want to focus on.
So there's basically, so I have 4.
Actually, what is it?
Yeah.
One of them are
Todd, where's the information about the narrative?
On the application?
Yeah.
There's nothing about that in there. It's
How long is
history
it?
of how long is it? Oh, the narrative is limited to 200 words per answer.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if we had like what this question. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh,
All good ways
questions.
they can
Yeah.
tailor those questions, but I don't know what they are. And see that.
Why you want to be teacher, kind of classroom environment you'd like to be part of, to classroom environment. characteristics.
I gotta like, yeah.
What they want?
I'm just
What
checking.
was the second one?
Second
Classroom?
one was classroom environment.
That they desire or that they
That they characteristics of positive classroom environment.
third was what you want in the Yeah, good, all right. So, this is the trickiest part. Social studies folks for a couple reasons. One is, one of the nice things about getting your degree here at Wyoming is that you will get a composite teaching license when you graduate, which certifies you to teach all of the social studies subjects. So psych, social, anthropology, geography, history, political science. A lot of states, you have to choose only one area, and that's what you get your license in. So here, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, but you have this composite license. The only hitch to that would be if you're in another state to teach, they might make you take a subject area test. Even if, unless it's your concurrent major. If your major in geography, you probably have more than enough credit hours that most states would accept that. I taught in Arizona for a while. There was a subject area test. If you wanted to get geography out of your license, economics out of your license, etc. I worked in New York State Public Schools, where all of this would transfer over, so you would be able to teach all of the social studies. So the problem becomes for some students that if your current major is history, you might get placed with a social studies teacher who has 2 periods of U.S. history, 2 periods of economics, 1 period of psychology, 1 period of law. Right? How do you present yourself to look like a desirable candidate? Okay. So that's why this is very important. So like that first question, why do you want to be a teacher? This is a space for you to present a really in-depth profile of your flaw. Now, a fatal flaw that a lot of candidates make is they'll start out with, I want to be a teacher because my first priority is to be a coach. And what happens, and this is one of the what I've heard happens a lot is some of your teachers have decided right? You lead with that as a strong force in the teacher. It's not going to appeal to a lot of mentor teachers. Later in that under workspace, you might end with saying, I'm excited to be active in this community as a coach, as a sponsor, debate teacher, modeling teacher. But apparently this is a thing where a lot of our students start out. My priority is coaching basketball. That's passion. Okay? So use that, why do I want to be a teacher space, to really nerd up your background as a specialist teacher. So if your current major is geography, you need to supplement that with 2 sentences. I also have interest in this aspect of world history, this aspect of political science, anthropology, so that you can come across as the most well-rounded social studies teacher you can be. Now, flip to that is when you get to this third question, what are your characteristics of a mentor teacher? You have to decide what your priority is, because we're the most populous teachers preparation area. That means that we get dispersed across that district. And we even have somebody go to River Taylor Manor because Casper and Gillette and Laramie and Cheyenne have so many students. So if geography is of paramount importance, you have to have really compelling reasons why that is. Okay? Typically that falls into medical, serious medical issues that might require you to be certain of those 4 areas. If you have children, family needs in those 4 areas. If your girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance lives honor that. Unfortunately, part-time job is really important. That's usually not enough to keep you. So think about how do you present a compelling case if geography is important. If it's not, it might be more important for you. It's having a particular teaching experience, like U.S. history is your thing, that's what you're doing. Right? You have to really explain why that is in part 3. I really prefer to be with a teacher X. Okay? That's U.S. history, that's the place for you to say it. If it's world history, that's the place for you to say it. If if you really want to be in the middle school, that's the place for you to say it to. And unlike other psychologies, it's really important in social studies to be as detailed as you can be, because we have so many moving pieces, right? And what ends up happening is we get situations where, I had a student last year, current major in history, preference was US, no, current major was political science, but ended up teaching almost all psychology for his. And he said,
Okay, so you fill this out.
that happens, but to mitigate the likelihood of that happening, this is where question 3 becomes important. Tailor what your characteristics of expertise are. Do you want to be in a teacher classroom who might teach with special ed teachers? Do you have an interest in special ed and it becomes a really marketable aspect to your teaching resume? Co-taught inclusion class, like most student teaching, science geography. And that's the place we say. If you have a burning interest in being with honor students or AP curriculum, that's the place to say it. However, some schools don't allow student teachers to teach those classes. Some do, some don't. But if that's particular interest of yours, that's very in math and science and English, there's just, well, science is English, for example, there's no wiggle room, or there's no really easy way to differentiate candidates. You know, if you're English or English, no one cares if you prefer teaching Frankenstein to social studies, because there's so many different positive backgrounds, geography, political science, history. You have to kind of create that narrative for people on what you're looking for. If you don't really care, then you need to be really explicit about that and say, I don't have a preference. I'm open to teaching any social studies. And if you're not, this is a place to say ideally you not be put in a classroom. All of your labs and course periods are vastly different from what special is. Yes, so that's kind of my
This is not an opportunity to add.
I'm sure that you Helen Reed, no, graphic exception. It's a particular section.
Okay.
So that's
Good enough.
right now.
What kind of questions do you have? How you might go about writing that?
I want a school that cares about their kids. Which is nice because then you put that last week if you need to make up time.
So it's, just out of curiosity, when you're picking a town to get placed in, you have to choose one of those four. This wouldn't be a place to say, if it fills up, I would like to go ...
You rank.
Okay, I saw that, but like if you didn't want to go, and then we just, or rather you had another option, I should say.
That's outside of those districts, then you could put that in.
Okay.
You're open to going to share that. The interesting thing about our program is that we have what are called partnership districts, which means that it's structured so candidates go to one of these designated districts.
I mean, I have people like do this too.
Although we have
You won't have to, whoever
social studies issue.
really you won't have to.
Riverton is not an official partnership.
Okay.
Fremont County in general may be in the future, I don't know. Conversations, but it is unfortunate that let's say we work out for that's but it's helpful to know some of that information in the unlikely that you might have to get this. So if that's the case, you can say that, that's helpful. But that ranking on the form is where you get to say, first choice, Wyoming County, second choice, Johnny Fox, third choice, all in that choice.
So in the narrative is when you say why you want to go to places like.
So, right, in mentor characteristics, that's the place to teach you about how you say that. So there was an application that came through last year. I want to stand there and rock band, practice everything. That's not gonna work. I don't say that, I don't mean to say that flippantly. You know, it's not
Other, like the application of making
that,
nervous.
I mean, it's, you know, it's your life.
Couple minutes?
Yep. But it helps you to think about how you strategically want to find it. Right? So like I mean, I don't think, in my opinion, there's no real urban schools in Wyoming. But if you wanted to say you have an interest in urban education, then Lincoln County, Cheyenne would be the place to do that, right? If you are interested in technology, county schools have one-to-one computing, they have that's a great place to under that kind of three mental characteristics. I like things such as Gillette, where there's tech-rich activities.
So you just like professional focus wise.
That's what I meant. These are kind of I don't quite agree on that. Because I kind of do these after the placements and say that makes sense to me. But I would just say you are. I guess that might also be because you only have so many characters.
That's what I'm supposed to.
Words, I guess, that you might read it. You might start with the course and then lead in the customer environment. So if you have a preference for middle school or high school, that might be a place to say
Stop the conversation, but we're just going to quickly review a couple of the instructions that you probably already talked about and then get into timelines and then wrap up. So, Tom, do you want to cover these points? Are you?
Happy to do it.
Okay.
Okay. Just to reiterate, single-sided printed pages. The only thing that can be or should be double-sided is your substitute teaching permit. There's information on the back that we need to know, and so we double copy it for the school districts. Paper clip it together. Please don't three-hole punch it, put it in a binder, put it in a folder, we'll give it back. Please don't triple hole punch it. That's a problem. That will get jammed in the copy machine and we'll be calling you again for a copy. So don't do that. A paper clip or a binder clip is all that's necessary to bring it in, and chances are we'll give it right back to you. No faxes, please. I mentioned computer completion. The only thing that should be handwritten would be your signature on various places throughout the application, and then pages 7 and 8 require you to initial next to about 24 statements now, and then sign at the bottom. So that's really what we would need you to do in terms of handwriting, and please do that in blank ink.
I just want to emphasize that with these instructions, and you know where I'm going with this, this is the beginning of you under the microscope. And this is like applying for a marriage license, if you want to buy a house, you get a loan. Everything has to be completely 100% accurate, like you're getting a passport. And when you make flubs on this, it's not like you're handing a course paper that gets handed back and said, well, you forgot page numbers on your paper. This is the beginning of your professional identity, and there's just no room for error. So you have to proofread it and double check it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times over. Because when you hand it in, this becomes your entry into becoming a professional educator. And little things that are inconsequential in a course paper are hugely important on following these instructions.
And so then once you turn it in, we're just going to quickly go through what happens next. So, Todd, do you want to start us off?
Certainly. Once you have a chance to log in your application, we will start after grades are posted for fall semester with the screening process. We will be screening your applications through the month of January. Our goal is to have them done the end of February, and all the students who have applied will be receiving some sort of notification on the status of their application. So my favorite thing to do is to send out the status letters that start with congratulations, you've been provisionally accepted to the Wyoming Teacher Education Program Phase 3. So that's what I love to send out to everybody. And attached to that particular letter will be what we call a status letter. And the status letter will tell you hopefully what you already know, what you've completed for the program, what you're registered for the program, and what you need to do to complete the program. So So there shouldn't be any surprises in that letter. If there are, give us a call. Okay, give us a call. Upper right-hand corner will have the initials or the name of the person in our office who screened that application. If you don't understand what they wrote, or if you think it's incorrect, call us, we'll sit down, we'll talk to you. In most cases, we have plenty of time to make corrections. So the sooner you get that letter, January, February, if you see something that's out of place, give us a call and we'll have a chat with you and we'll get it straightened out. Okay. Now the things I don't like to do is send out denial letters, and that happens sometimes. The two typical reasons for denial letters that we send out are GPA too low and not enough coursework completed. Okay. If the situation changes after spring semester or even after summer semester, there is a chance of getting back into the sweepstakes, back into the run, but you need to contact us. You need to fill out the application, or I'm sorry, the petition for reconsideration of your application. That's on the applicant to do if things change appreciably and you feel you're ready to come back in. Again, my goal is to, some year, never write any denial letters. That hasn't happened in about 12 years, but I would love to experience that. Okay,
And then once the Office of Teacher Education has sent out those letters, then they give us copies of the application to elementary education and to secondary education. And then as a faculty, we review the applications, then we set up meetings with partner districts. And then once all of you have been assigned in a placement, then we send out notifications to you, to your UWYO email address. So we have had some students say to us, hey, I never heard. And we have to say, did you check your UWYO address? Because that's where it'll come. And then sort of the timeline, Todd's already mentioned, and we've talked about that the deadline is this December 11th. And then the review of the applications happen January and February, and status or denial letters are sent to students and to us as a department. And then March and April, UW Partner District have placement meetings. And then May and June, the placements are finalized, and then students are notified to their email UWYO address. The next question, where will I go? So in secondary, we have where the stars are placements in partner school districts. So in Albany County here in Laramie, in Campbell County in Gillette, in Laramie County in Cheyenne, and in Natrona County in Casper. I do want to say a couple caveats. For our art education and our ag education, more often than not, we go to other districts as well. We will try to place you in these 4 school districts, but many school districts might just have one ag ed person. And so we can't place 4 of our students with one mentor. So that is where our placements are, and I just want to say a couple friendly hints. Once the applications are to the school districts, they are the ones who make the final decision. And remember, we won't place you in a building where you were a student, or if you have relatives working or attending in the building. So if you grew up in Casper and you went to Natrona High School, then we will not place you there, but we could place you at Kelly Walsh. And I know that might make your blood boil because I know they're big rivals, but. And then I will say straight out, many students request to be placed here in Laramie, but just remember there are limited placements here in the school district. I would encourage you to think about the big picture. So let's say you have never really thought about Gillette as a possible place. They hire tens, if not hundreds, of teachers every year. They're building a new high school. There are lots of room for growth in Campbell County, but not much room for growth here in the city of Laramie. So try and think big picture, not just next spring semester 2017, but really where you want to be in fall of 2017. When I already mentioned art and ag tend to be placed. We place people in these 4 districts, but then we sometimes spill over to other districts. Yeah.
So I have a question, like, if I have a cousin with like my same last name who's going to teach at high school next year, is that cool? I don't know.
Is your cousin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we try not to place where you have family members. a good question.
And you will appreciate that because you don't want to be known as Mr.
Boss,
So-and-so's cousin.
Yeah.
You want to be known as your
Yeah.
own teacher.
Yep,
And if you're in a district too, where you have a parent or whatever, uncle, who's a principal or administrator, you don't want to put them in the district. Because they're not going to believe how willing you get
that's right.
in a different district.
Other questions about where you might end up? Now, we know that some of you might have hardships. We'd like to know about those hardships that might need to keep you in a certain place. But other than that, we would encourage you to think broadly as opposed to just wanting to stay in Laramie. Yeah,
Sorry. If a district makes a special request for some content area that's outside of our usual zones, would you include the student in that decision? You could just say, hey, we got this request in from the state, and it's this area, we typically don't go there, but there's this opportunity. Does that come into the
that comes
decision
into
at
play
all?
sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, especially in our large enrolled programs like English, social studies, where we need to find multiple placements for sure. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right, so what are your questions? Do you all have any questions for us? You want to pass your cards if anybody filled out a card? Okay, so for more information, we would encourage you to talk to your advisor and or the Office of Teacher Education. Here's all their contact info. And then I'm going to do one more call out for questions. Yeah, Todd.
What about assistance with housing if they are, if
Oh.
students are required to
Move or relocate?
relocate for the
Great,
spring
great
semester? Because
question.
that can be, not knowing the answer to that question, I think can be rather anxiety producing.
Yes.
So we'll ask.
Great question. So in each of our partner districts, we have what's called the UW facilitator. And those facilitators, they're all women, so I can say she. All of them are either former teachers or former principal in the district. And so they can help you, give you information on potential places to live. Many teachers offer up school, additional rooms in their house. Not your mentor, of course. You wouldn't want to work all day with your mentor, then also have to go home with your mentor. And so that would be a long day. But yeah, a lot of families might open up their home, an extra room to rent. They can also provide you information on listings and the like. So there is support. They won't find a place for you, but there is support.
They can tell you if it's unsafe.
Yes, exactly, yeah. They have much more knowledge. They usually live in the district, and so they can definitely help you. Great question. Any other questions?
I have a
Yes.
question.
Carrie?
What about my behavior? So if I hand this thing in and I'm doing well and suddenly I'm arrested next
Good one.
spring, or what happens to me?
That is a great
Do
question.
I just get to hide out because I have already filled this thing out?
No. In fact, one of the things you sign off on, I think, is that you will notify the teacher, Office of Teacher Education, if there's been a change to your status. So for example, Laramie, and then also even the state of Wyoming is a pretty small town. And if we find out something about you that you haven't told us, that is huge.
Your students will Google you as soon as you start your residency.
That's right.
And so you don't want a boomerang article about you to be the first hit, because they will Google you in 1-1-5. So when they find your name,
How'd you end up in the police beat?
right,
That's right.
parking violation, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger.
Yeah. We want you, the first hit to be, my student teacher won an award, not my student teacher spent some time with people in uniform.
Three-bar hotel, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure those of you who have looked at the application, if you do have something on your background check that will come up, you have to notify us in the form of a letter, and then those letters actually do go to school districts. Yep, great question.
But it does have to do with convictions.
Convictions,
It has
yeah.
to work its way through the court system.
That's
We're
right.
all innocent until proven guilty in a court of
Absolutely.
law.
Yep.
So things can happen to people, and they can be done unjustly. So I had a student who was going into student teaching a few years ago, I think it was elementary, was just beside herself because she'd been pulled over and cited. They dropped the charges. So I said, let's wait and see how this whole thing plays out. Well, it played out in her favor. So the operative word is conviction, or you plead guilty or no contest. Then you've got to report whatever that is.
But it's a smart move to tell a tub or a kid
Yes,
Welsh,
yeah.
because otherwise they don't know, and then when it gets brought up, you're sitting there as a department head going, huh?
Mhm.
Come again?
Yeah,
Beg
you
your
didn't hear
pardon?
about that one.
Yeah.
You look at the form, there's nothing on the form, what do? And, you know, much better to come in and say, oh yeah, well, until you're convicted, we're not gonna do anything.
Right, but what's good,
But you gotta, it's helpful to know.
yes.
If you can Google yourself now, you might find that your 2009 spring break picture you forgot was tagged by somebody, and their account's public, and that comes up. That's a chance for you to say to your friend, untag me from that picture. Because I also need to point out that the teachers will Google you when they're reviewing your applications as well.
Teachers and administrators.
Yes, and so you need to take that preventive action to see how you come up in a Google search, and if there's something that can be modified or taken down, now's the time to do it before we have a break.
Great. Any other? Well, let's leave on this positive note. This is an incredible step for you to be starting to think about phase 3.